what is life like for the rich in Warhammer 40k? In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. For the vast masses of humanity spread across 1,000,000 worlds, life is a brutal struggle for survival. Billions toil in manufactorums, breathe recycled air thick with pollutants, consume corpse starch rations, and die young in service to an Imperium that barely acknowledges their existence. But not everyone suffers equally under the weight of the 41st millennium. At the very pinnacle of Imperial society exists a class so far removed from the common citizen that they might as well be living in an entirely different universe. These are the highborn, the planetary governors, the merchant princes, the rogue traders, and the ancient noble houses whose bloodlines stretch back thousands of years through the dark age of the Imperium. For these privileged few, life is not merely about survival. It is about power, luxury, intrigue, and the careful navigation of political waters that can drown the unwary as surely as any battlefield. They live in crystalline spires that pierce through toxic clouds, in orbital palaces that drift among the stars, in fortress mansions protected by private armies numbering in the thousands. They extend their lives for centuries through rejuvenat treatments, attended by legions of servants who cater to their every whim. They wear clothing woven from materials more valuable than entire hive blocks, dine on delicacies imported from across the galaxy, and make decisions that can affect the fates of billions with a casual wave of their hands. Yet for all their wealth and power, the rich of the Imperium live under constant threat. They must navigate Byzantine political structures where a misstep can mean assassination, disgrace, or worse. They face rivals within their own families who would gladly see them dead to claim their position. The Inquisition watches for any sign of heresy or corruption, ready to bring even the mightiest lord low. And beyond all of this lurks the ever-present darkness of chaos, whispering promises of even greater power to those whose boredom and excess have left them vulnerable to corruption. This is life at the top of Imperial society. It is a world of unimaginable luxury built upon foundations of paranoia, political maneuvering, and the bodies of countless millions who will never taste even a fraction of such privilege. To understand what it means to be rich in Warhammer 40,000 is to understand both the heights of human achievement and the depths of human depravity, all wrapped together in gilded armor and sealed behind fortress walls. The hierarchy of wealth in the Imperium is as complex as it is vast. At the lowest tier of the truly wealthy, we find the upper administrators and manufactorum managers who live in the upper hive levels. These individuals, while comfortable by the standards of their world, would still be considered mere functionaries by the truly elite. They have access to real food instead of recycled protein paste, living spaces measured in rooms rather than sleeping cubes, and perhaps even a handful of personal servants. Their children can expect to inherit their positions, and they need never venture into the horrifying depths of the underhive where gangs and mutants hold sway. Above them stand the lesser nobility, the knights and barons of whatever feudal system their world employs. These families have held their positions for centuries, their names inscribed in the official registers of nobility. They command estates that might house thousands of workers, own shares in various industrial concerns, and wield enough influence to avoid most legal consequences for their actions. A member of the lesser nobility can expect to live well past 100 years if they can afford basic rejuvenat treatments, and their word carries weight in local politics. The true power begins with the great noble houses, those families whose lineages stretch back millennia and whose holdings might span multiple hive cities or even entire continents. These are the houses Catalyst, Greem, Co-Iron, and their ilk on worlds like Necromunda, or the houses Barquette and Margrave on Atoma Prime. They control vast industrial concerns, maintain private armies that rival planetary defense forces in size, and play political games where the stakes are measured in billions of lives and uncountable wealth. A great house might have dozens or even hundreds of potential heirs, each scheming for position, each seeking to prove themselves worthy of inheriting true power. At the apex of planetary power sit the planetary governors themselves, the imperial commanders who rule entire worlds in the emperor's name. These individuals wield absolute authority over their domains, limited only by the need to provide their imperial tithe and the watchful eyes of the Inquisition. They live in palaces that would beggar the imagination of common citizens, surrounded by such opulence that even visiting dignitaries from other worlds might gasp in wonder. Their word is quite literally law, and their displeasure can mean death for thousands. But even planetary governors must bow before the true elite of imperial society. The rogue traders, those who bear warrants of trade signed by the emperor himself, operate on a level that transcends normal imperial hierarchy. They command fleets of starships, control trade routes that span entire sectors, and possess wealth so vast that it defies easy quantification. A rogue trader with a profit factor of 70 has resources that exceed those of many planetary governors. They can field private armies that include detachments of space marines, conduct negotiations with xenos races that would see lesser humans executed for heresy, and claim entire worlds for the Imperium with a simple proclamation. Then there are the Navigator houses, the navis nobility, whose monopoly on faster-than-light travel makes them indispensable to the Imperium's very existence. These strange, mutated families live in palace ships that drift through the void, or in estates so vast they resemble small cities. Their private retainers and bodyguards number in the thousands, and their wealth rivals or exceeds that of all but the most powerful rogue traders. Each level of this hierarchy has its own customs, its own dangers, its own particular brand of luxury and paranoia. But all share certain commonalities that define what it means to be rich in the Imperium of man. They are born to privilege, raised to rule, educated in the arts of politics and war, and surrounded from birth by reminders that their position is both enormously powerful and incredibly precarious. Life in the highest reaches of a hive city is so different from existence in the lower levels that they might as well be separate worlds. The hive spires pierce through layers of pollution and toxic clouds to reach clean air and natural sunlight, those precious commodities that the teeming billions below will never experience. Here, in these crystalline towers that stretch kilometers into the sky, the nobility make their homes in splendor that would seem impossible to anyone who has only known the cramped, polluted confines of the lower hive. The architecture of the spires reflects both the immense wealth of their inhabitants and the thousands of years of accumulated history that defines the Imperium. Vast domes of reinforced crystal allow natural light to flood into gardens where real plants grow in real soil, tended by armies of servitors and gardeners. The walls are not the bare rockcrete of the lower levels, but are covered in precious metal leaf, hung with ancient portraits of ancestral heroes, or decorated with intricate mosaics depicting the glory of the emperor and the history of the house that dwells within. Every surface speaks of wealth beyond measure, from the floors of polished marble imported from quarry worlds, light years distant to the chandeliers of cut crystal that scatter rainbow light across ballrooms large enough to hold thousands of guests. The living quarters of spire nobility are themselves larger than entire hab blocks in the middle hive. A single family's estate might occupy several entire levels of the spire, with different floors dedicated to different purposes. The lowest levels, still far above the pollution of the hive proper, contain the servants' quarters, kitchens, and storage facilities. Here, hundreds or even thousands of menials work in a complex hierarchy of their own, from the lowest scullery servants who never see their masters to the personal attendants and major domos who manage the household's daily operations. Above the service levels are the formal reception rooms and state apartments where the nobility conduct their public business. Here we find ballrooms with ceilings so high they create their own weather. Dining halls where feasts are served on plates of precious metals, libraries containing knowledge lost to most of the Imperium, and galleries displaying art collected over millennia. When a noble house wishes to impress visitors or intimidate rivals, these are the spaces where such theatre takes place. Every detail is calculated to project power and ancient lineage, from the suits of power armor standing in silent vigil to the banners of military triumphs won centuries ago. The private quarters of the family occupy the highest levels, where security is tightest and only the most trusted servants are permitted entry. Here, the nobility can relax behind their public masks, though even in private, they must maintain constant vigilance against assassins and spies. Bedchambers are fitted with hidden escape routes and sealed behind doors that could withstand a tactical nuclear strike. Personal guards, often augmented with combat bionics and armed with the finest weapons money can buy, maintain watch at all hours. But perhaps the most striking difference between spire life and existence below is simply the air. Up here, above the pollution layer, the atmosphere is not recycled through ancient and failing ventilation systems. It does not carry the constant taste of industrial chemicals and human waste. The nobility of the spires breathe clean air, cooled or heated to perfect comfort, sometimes even scented with subtle fragrances from exotic flowers. To someone from the lower hive, this alone would seem like paradise beyond imagining. The daily routine of spire nobility is dictated by the intricate social conventions that govern high imperial society. Morning typically begins with attendance by personal servants who assist with bathing and dressing, processes that can take hours when one must select from wardrobes containing hundreds of garments, each worth more than a common worker's lifetime earnings. The clothing itself is a statement of status and house allegiance, often incorporating materials that are literally irreplaceable, such as threads woven from the hair of saints or buttons carved from the bones of ancient heroes. Breakfast is served in private dining rooms with views across the hivescape, or, for those fortunate enough to have estates in the highest reaches, across the natural landscape beyond. The food bears no resemblance to the corpse starch and algae paste that sustains the lower hive. Here we find fresh fruit imported from agri-worlds, meat from animals raised specifically for consumption, delicacies that might travel half the galaxy to reach this table. Each meal is prepared by skilled cuisiniers who have spent decades perfecting their craft, served on plates of precious metals by attendants who have been trained in the elaborate etiquette of high service. The morning hours are typically devoted to business and administration. A noble might meet with household stewards to review the family's financial interests, with merchants seeking to curry favor through profitable deals, with military commanders to discuss the disposition of house troops, or with representatives from other noble houses to negotiate alliances or resolve disputes. These meetings take place in formal receiving rooms, with both parties attended by their own retinues of advisors, bodyguards, and witnesses. Every word spoken is carefully considered, for among the nobility, language itself becomes a weapon in the endless political maneuvering that defines their existence. The afternoon often brings social obligations. The nobility of the spires maintain an intricate web of relationships through carefully orchestrated social events. There are luncheons and tea gatherings where alliances are strengthened and gossip is traded like currency. There are exhibitions where wealthy collectors display newly acquired art or archaeotech. There are salons where poets and philosophers debate matters of high culture, while their noble patrons play their own games of influence and intrigue. To refuse an invitation without proper cause is to give insult, but to accept every invitation is to appear desperate for social standing. The navigation of these social waters requires skills as finely honed as any battlefield tactics. Evening brings the most elaborate social events. Grand balls where hundreds of nobility gather to dance, to be seen, to negotiate marriages between houses, to display their wealth through ever more elaborate costumes and jewelry. State dinners where the seating arrangement is itself a complex political statement, where every course is theatre, and every conversation might hide deadly intent. Private concerts, where musicians perform on instruments worth more than starships, their music echoing through halls designed for perfect acoustics. Theatre performances where actors and performers have been imported from across the sector, sometimes at costs that could feed an entire hive level for years. Yet beneath all this luxury and social grace runs a current of constant danger. The spires are not insulated from the violence that permeates Imperial society. They are merely battlefields where the warfare is conducted with different weapons. A smile can hide a poisoned blade. An alliance sealed with handshakes and ancient oaths can shatter in an instant when one house perceives advantage in betrayal. The young scions of noble houses, bored with their privileged existence and seeking to prove themselves, sometimes descend into the lower hive on hunting expeditions, preying on gangs and underhive dwellers for sport. These so-called spire hunts are conducted in powered hunting suits worth more than entire hab blocks, turning murder into entertainment for the bored rich. The threat of assassination is ever present. Noble houses maintain extensive networks of spies and assassins, and it is not uncommon for ambitious heirs to arrange accidents for those ahead of them in succession. A fall from a high balcony, a mysterious illness that even the best medici cannot cure, a transport accident during a visit to another part of the hive. These are all common enough occurrences that the nobility maintain constant vigilance. Even within the family, trust is a rare commodity. Brothers plot against brothers, sisters against sisters, children against parents, all seeking to secure their position or advance their standing. This paranoia shapes every aspect of spire life. Food is tested for poison by servitors or condemned criminals before it reaches a noble's lips. Clothing is scanned for concealed weapons or tracking devices. Personal guards, often enhanced with combat augmetics and bound to their masters through neural conditioning or fanatical loyalty, accompany nobles even in seemingly private moments. Some of the wealthiest maintain their own gene-locked chambers where they can retreat in absolute security, rooms that only they can enter and from which they can command their household through secure vox channels. The spire nobility of worlds like Necromunda have developed this lifestyle into an art form. Houses Catalus, Graeme, Coiron, Ranlo, T, and Ulanti each maintain their own sections of Hive Primus's spire, their territories carefully delineated and jealously guarded. They sign elaborate accords like the Oath Nobiles, vowing never to bring open warfare to the hive, even as they engage in constant shadow wars through their gangs in the underhive and through assassination and sabotage in the spires themselves. The ruling house Helmauer sits at the pinnacle, its palatial complex occupying the very highest reaches of the spire, where Lord Gerontius maintains his grip on power through a combination of ancient authority, overwhelming military force, and ruthless political acumen. On Atoma Prime, houses Barquette and Margrave wage their own cold war for dominance of the Moebian domain. Lord Constance Margrave, the 13th of his line to hold the office of Lord Moebian, is described as exceptionally ambitious and brutal, lacking empathy, even by the standards of imperial nobility. The House Barquette marshals its own forces, with members scattered across various positions of power and influence, each working to advance the house's interests. Conspiracy abounds in the upper spires, with whispers of plots to unseat Lord Margrave, though whether these plots will come to fruition or end in the execution of the plotters remains to be seen. This is the reality of life in the spires. It is luxury beyond measure, yes, but it is luxury purchased at the price of constant vigilance and participation in games where the penalty for losing is death or disgrace. The nobility are born to power and privilege, but they must fight every day to maintain it, surrounded by rivals who would gladly see them fall. At the apex of planetary power sits the Imperial Governor, also known as the Planetary Governor or Imperial Commander. This individual rules an entire world or even a complete star system in the Emperor's name, wielding authority that is essentially absolute within their domain. The position is often hereditary, with power passing from parent to child, down through the generations, creating dynasties that can span thousands of years. Yet even positions earned through merit, rather than birth, carry the same enormous weight of responsibility and power. The seat of a planetary governor's power is typically a fortress palace of such scale that it defies easy description. These structures are not merely homes, but are small cities unto themselves, housing not just the governor and their immediate family, but also hundreds or thousands of administrators, thousands more servants and guards, entire wings dedicated to military command and control, and facilities for entertainment and state functions that can accommodate tens of thousands of guests. The Palatine complex, atop Hive Primus on Necromunda, home to Lord Gerontius Helmawa, is one such example. It crowns the highest spire of the largest hive on the planet, its adamantium walls strong enough to withstand orbital bombardment, its defenses including void shields, lance batteries, and entire regiments of elite house troops. Within these palaces, planetary governors live in splendor that would seem fantastical even to the spire nobility. Their private quarters alone might occupy entire floors of the complex, with reception halls that could swallow cathedrals, dining rooms where state banquets for hundreds are routine affairs, and private chambers fitted with every luxury the Imperium can provide. The governor's throne room, where they receive petitioners and pass judgment, is often designed to awe and intimidate. Massive spaces with ceilings lost in shadow, lined with the banners of military victories and the heraldry of the ruling house, lit by thousands of luminators, with the throne itself positioned on a raised dais where the governor can literally look down upon all who approach. The daily business of governing a world or system is an enormous undertaking that requires vast bureaucracies and administrative hierarchies. The governor must ensure that the imperial tithe is met, collecting both the soldiers demanded for the Astra Militarum and the economic output required by the Departamento Munitorum. They must maintain order across their domain, commanding the planetary defense forces and coordinating with the Adeptus Arbites when necessary. They must manage relationships with other imperial organizations that operate on their world, from the Adeptus Mechanicus forge temples to the Ecclesiarchy cathedrals, from the Administratum offices to the inquisitorial presence that watches for heresy and corruption. This work is typically delegated through layers of subordinates. The governor themselves might only make the highest level decisions, setting policy and resolving disputes between powerful factions, while trusted administrators handle the day-to-day governance. These administrators form their own hierarchy of privilege and power, with senior officials wielding influence that might exceed that of lesser nobility. They are often rewarded with estates of their own, positions for their children, and the subtle privileges that come from proximity to ultimate power. The governor's relationship with the military is particularly crucial. They command the planetary defense forces, which might number in the millions or even billions, depending on the world's size and strategic importance. These forces are often organized along feudal lines, with different regiments or divisions, owing allegiance to different noble houses or military traditions, all ultimately answering to the governor. The finest regiments serve as the governor's personal guard, equipped with the best weapons and armor available, trained to elite standards, and bound by oaths of loyalty that are reinforced through tradition, honor, and very practical considerations of reward and punishment. Some governors maintain relationships with Space Marine chapters that have a presence on or near their world. These relationships are complex, as Space Marines ultimately answer only to their chapter master and the Emperor, not to any planetary governor. But a wise governor understands the value of maintaining good relations with these transhuman warriors. They might provide support for chapter facilities, offer first choice of recruits from their world's population, or arrange for favorable trade relationships that benefit both parties. In return, the chapter might prove willing to respond to requests for aid in times of crisis, or at least not interfere with the governor's rule. The wealth available to a planetary governor is difficult to comprehend. The tithe they collect from their world is a percentage of total economic output. And on a productive hive world or forge world, this represents resources on a scale that beggars the imagination. Billions of throne geld flowing through accounts every year, production from thousands of manufacturers, food from entire continents of agricultural land. The governor typically takes a substantial portion of this wealth as their personal due, both openly through official compensation and covertly through the corrupt practices that are endemic to imperial governance. This wealth buys luxuries that even spire nobility might envy. The governor might maintain a personal collection of starships, some for official business and others purely for pleasure. Their wardrobe could contain tens of thousands of garments, each custom made by the finest tailors in the sector. They might own art collections that span millennia, containing pieces that are literally irreplaceable, the last surviving works of cultures that have been extinct for thousands of years. Some governors are known to maintain extensive harems or pleasure houses, staffed by the most beautiful individuals that can be found or bred, sometimes augmented with genetic enhancements or subtle bionics to enhance their appeal. The rejuvenat treatments available to planetary governors are typically the finest that can be obtained, while even wealthy nobles might only afford treatments that slow aging somewhat. Governors can access the kind of bioalchemy that can extend healthy life for centuries. It is not uncommon for a planetary governor to rule for 200 years or more, maintained in the physical prime of middle age through constant medical intervention, gene therapy, and even more exotic treatments involving xenos biotechnology or dark age techniques recovered from archaeotech hoards. Yet for all this power and wealth, the position of planetary governor is one of constant political danger. They must navigate relationships with the various imperial organizations that operate on their world, none of whom truly answer to the governor's authority. The Adeptus Mechanicus jealously guards its forge temples and tech priests. The ecclesiarchy sees itself as the voice of the emperor's will, superior to any secular authority. The Adeptus Arbites enforces imperial law without regard for the governor's wishes. And over all of this looms the Inquisition, whose agents can investigate, arrest, or execute even a planetary governor if they are found wanting in loyalty or competence. The relationship between governor and inquisitor is always complex. By law and custom, an inquisitor has the authority to demand anything they wish from a planetary governor, and refusal or even hesitation can be seen as evidence of heresy. A wise governor will cooperate fully with any inquisitorial investigation, providing whatever resources are requested and asking no questions about what they are used for. Yet governors are also aware that some inquisitors might be pursuing personal agendas, settling old scores, or even hunting for heresy where none exists. The boldest governors might attempt to subtly resist or delay inquisitorial demands, but this is a dangerous game that has seen more than one world leader dragged away in chains. The greatest threat to most governors comes not from external forces, but from their own families and allied houses. In hereditary systems, there are always heirs waiting for their chance to rule, and some grow impatient. Assassination plots are common enough that governors typically employ elaborate security measures, including food tasters, personal guards selected from the most fanatically loyal troops, secure bunkers within their palaces where they can retreat if threatened, and sometimes even body doubles or hololithic decoys to draw attacks away from the real governor. Some governors, like the infamous overlord Hermann von Straub of Armageddon, prove utterly incompetent despite inheriting their position. Von Straub gained power through the traditional method of assassinating his rivals, including his 3 older brothers who underestimated him. His incompetence as both governor and military commander during the Second War for Armageddon led to disaster after disaster, eventually forcing Lord Commander Dante of the Blood Angels to place him under house arrest and take command personally. Von Straub later escaped in a stolen landspeeder, and his body was never recovered, leaving his ultimate fate a mystery but his legacy as one of the Imperium's worst governors secure. The position also carries enormous responsibility. A governor who fails to meet their imperial tithe might face investigation and removal. One who allows heresy or rebellion to flourish on their world invites the attention of the Inquisition. Even natural disasters or Xenos invasions, things beyond any governor's control, can result in censure or worse if the higher authorities decide that the governor's response was inadequate. The pressure of ruling billions of lives, managing resources on a planetary scale, maintaining order against constant threats, all while navigating the Byzantine politics of imperial administration, weighs heavily even on the strongest personalities. This is why some governors retreat into decadence and excess, losing themselves in their privileges while allowing subordinates to handle the actual work of governance. Others become tyrants, ruling through fear and overwhelming force, crushing any hint of dissent before it can grow into real rebellion. The best governors, those rare individuals who genuinely care about their responsibilities and work to improve conditions for their subjects, find themselves fighting an uphill battle against the inertia of imperial bureaucracy, the corruption of their own subordinates, and the simple fact that improvement for the masses often means reduced profit for the nobility. Yet despite all these pressures and dangers, the position of planetary governor remains one of the most coveted in the Imperium. The power to shape the destiny of an entire world, to command billions, to live in luxury that exceeds the wildest dreams of common citizens. These are prizes worth fighting and scheming for. And so the great game of imperial politics continues, generation after generation, with governors rising and falling like stars in the void. If planetary governors represent the pinnacle of power within the normal imperial hierarchy, then rogue traders exist on a different level entirely. These individuals and their dynasties possess something that transcends all other authority in the Imperium: a warrant of trade, signed by the Emperor himself or by one of his most trusted servants during the Great Crusade. This ancient legal document grants its bearer freedom that would be unthinkable for any other imperial citizen. It gives them the right to explore beyond the boundaries of the Imperium, to trade with Xenos races, whose very existence would see lesser humans executed for heresy, to claim entire worlds in the Emperor's name, and to acquire wealth on a scale that makes even planetary governors seem relatively poor. The origins of the first rogue traders stretch back to the days of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor's expeditionary fleets pushed outward into the galaxy. Some of the most powerful nobles of Terra, those whose ambitions or political complications made their continued presence on humanity's homeworld problematic, were offered these warrants as an elegant solution to difficult situations. They could not be openly removed from power without political consequences, but they could be sent away to the frontiers with the authority to carve out their own domains among the stars. It was exile dressed as honor, and it created dynasties that would endure for 10,000 years. The warrants themselves are priceless artifacts, often bearing the Emperor's own seal and signature, sometimes signed by primarchs or other heroes of the Great Crusade. They are tailored to each individual recipient, specifying the extent of their authority and the boundaries of their mandate. Some warrants grant nearly unlimited freedom, allowing their bearers to explore anywhere and trade with anyone, while others include restrictions on territory or activities. But all share certain fundamental grants of power: the right to command any imperial ship to their service, the right to requisition resources from imperial worlds, the right to claim newly discovered worlds for the Imperium, and most crucially, immunity from most imperial laws and the authority of most imperial officials. This last point cannot be overstated. A rogue trader's authority comes directly from the Emperor, and by both imperial law and the dogma of the imperial creed, no one is empowered to overrule someone who has received the God Emperor's direct sanction. Even inquisitors, whose authority is vast and whose reach extends throughout the Imperium, must treat carefully with rogue traders. While an inquisitor can certainly investigate a rogue trader suspected of heresy or treason, actually moving against one requires overwhelming evidence and often the approval of a tribunal. A rogue trader caught in overt rebellion or obvious corruption can be punished, but the punishment itself is likely to be much more severe than for any other imperial citizen, precisely because they were trusted with such extraordinary authority. The wealth of a successful rogue trader dynasty is measured not in throne guilt or even in planetary economies, but in what the ancient texts call profit factor. This represents not just liquid wealth, but the total economic power and influence of the dynasty, including their fleets, their trade routes, their holdings across multiple worlds, their political connections, and their reputation within the complex web of imperial commerce. A rogue trader with a profit factor of 70 possesses wealth that transcends normal comprehension. They are, quite literally, richer than most planetary governors, more liquid than planet-bound merchant princes, with resources that pour in faster than they can be counted. This wealth isn't simply a giant pile of throne gelt sitting in a vault somewhere. It represents countless ventures, investments, and compacts that stretch across the Imperium and generate even more wealth on an ongoing basis. A rogue trader dynasty might own entire trading fleets, maintain manufactorums on a dozen worlds, hold monopolies on rare goods or technologies, command the loyalty of colonies they founded, and have debts owed to them by noble houses, imperial organizations, and even space marine chapters. The profits from these ventures pour in constantly, but they also require constant reinvestment and management. A rogue trader can't always afford everything they want immediately, not because they lack wealth, but because that wealth is tied up in ventures that can't be liquidated without suffering losses that would weaken the dynasty. The fleets commanded by wealthy rogue traders rival those of Imperial Navy battle groups. A major dynasty might field dozens of ships, ranging from small, fast couriers and transports to massive cruisers capable of engaging enemy warships in void combat. These vessels are often ancient, passed down through the dynasty for generations, maintained by the finest tech priests that can be hired or coerced, and fitted with weapons and equipment that are sometimes recovered archaeotech more advanced than standard Imperial Navy vessels can field. Some rogue traders have access to ship classes up to and including grand cruisers, massive vessels that serve as mobile fortresses and symbols of the dynasty's power. The crew complement of a rogue trader's flagship alone might number in the tens of thousands, and across an entire fleet, this can swell to hundreds of thousands or even millions of individuals who owe their loyalty to the dynasty. These aren't impressed sailors or conscripted crew, but often multi-generational spacer families who have served the dynasty for centuries, whose children are born in the void, and who know no other life than service to their lord captain. They form their own complex society within the ships, with hierarchies of rank and privilege, traditions that stretch back through the generations, and a fierce loyalty that comes from knowing that their fate is bound to that of the dynasty they serve. Beyond their ships, successful rogue traders command private armies that can number in the hundreds of thousands or even millions. These forces are drawn from multiple sources. Some are house troops, soldiers recruited from worlds controlled by the dynasty and trained to elite standards. Others are mercenaries hired for specific campaigns or contracts. Some rogue traders have even negotiated agreements with space marine chapters, being able to request detachments of Astartes for particularly dangerous missions in exchange for various services or considerations provided to the chapter. These military forces serve multiple purposes. They protect the dynasty's holdings, they conquer new worlds to claim for the Imperium and the dynasty, they suppress rebellions or eliminate rivals, and they serve as a deterrent against those who might think to take advantage of the rogue trader. The daily life of a rogue trader. Lord Captain is one of near constant movement and activity, at least for those who take their mandate seriously. They might spend months or years journeying through the warp to reach unexplored regions of space, seeking new worlds to claim and new opportunities for profit. They negotiate treaties with alien races, walking the fine line between profitable trade and dangerous heresy, knowing that what they do would see any other imperial citizen executed. but is permitted to them by their warrant. They explore ancient ruins and space hulks, seeking archaeotech that can be sold for vast profit or kept to enhance their own power. They mediate disputes between imperial worlds, broker deals between noble houses, transport critical cargoes that no one else can be trusted to deliver, and sometimes fight battles against pirates, Xenos raiders, or even chaos warbands that threaten imperial space. When a rogue trader is not voyaging through the void, they might maintain estates on various worlds throughout the Imperium. These are not modest dwellings, but palaces that rival those of planetary governors, sometimes entire cities that serve as the dynasty's headquarters and seat of power. Here, the rogue trader holds court, receiving petitioners and allies, negotiating deals that might affect entire sectors, hosting gatherings where the wealthy and powerful come to see and be seen. The furnishings and decorations in these estates often include trophies from across the galaxy, Xenos artifacts that would be burned as heretical in most contexts, but are accepted when in the possession of a rogue trader. Ancient weapons and armor from the Imperium's history, artworks that span human civilization, and specimens of rare or extinct flora and fauna from worlds that might no longer exist. The rogue trader themselves often cultivates a flamboyant personal style, wearing clothing and armor that proclaims their status and independence. Where imperial officials and even nobles must often dress in ways that conform to strict codes of propriety, a rogue trader can afford to be bold, even outrageous. They might wear a mix of imperial finery and Xenos materials, carry weapons that are works of art as much as instruments of war, and adorn themselves with jewelry and accessories that represent vast wealth and exotic taste. This flamboyance serves multiple purposes. It proclaims their status and confidence, it intimidates or impresses those they meet, and it reinforces the sense that they operate by different rules than normal imperial citizens. The retinue that surrounds a rogue trader is itself a small army of specialists and experts. No single individual can master every aspect of void travel, trade, exploration, exploitation, and war, so successful rogue traders surround themselves with the best people they can recruit or coerce into service. There might be master navigators from the most prestigious navigator houses, ensuring safe passage through the warp. Arch-militants who serve as military commanders and personal bodyguards, often wearing power armor and carrying weapons that could take down small vehicles. Seneschals who manage the vast commercial empire and handle the endless details of administration. Explorators from the Adeptus Mechanicus who can identify and utilize archaeotech. Rogue psychers bound to the rogue trader's service through a combination of necessity and loyalty, and various others, each bringing their own expertise and each bound to the rogue trader through complex webs of loyalty, debt, ambition, and mutual advantage. Yet for all their power and freedom, rogue traders are not invulnerable. Their voyages take them to the most dangerous regions of space, where the threats are not just hostile Xenos or pirates, but things far worse. They might encounter chaos corruption that can seduce even the strongest-willed individuals. They might stumble into conflicts between forces so powerful that even their mighty fleets are as nothing. They might discover horrors from the dark age of technology that should have stayed buried. And they must always be aware that other rogue traders are competitors, that rival dynasties would gladly see them fail or fall if it advances their own interests. The pressure of maintaining a rogue trader dynasty across generations can be enormous. Heirs must be trained not just in leadership and combat, but in the specific skills and knowledge needed to command fleets, negotiate with aliens, and navigate the Byzantine politics of imperial society. Succession disputes can tear dynasties apart, with different heirs backed by different factions within the organization, sometimes leading to civil wars that play out across multiple star systems. Some dynasties maintain their power and prestige for millennia, their warrants passed from parent to child in an unbroken line, stretching back to the Great Crusade. Others fall into decline, their fleets scattered, their wealth diminished, until they are reduced to a single ancient ship and a handful of loyal crew. their warrant of trade the only thing separating them from being considered mere pirates or merchants. For those at the pinnacle of a successful dynasty, life as a rogue trader represents perhaps the ultimate expression of freedom within the Imperium. They can go where they wish, do what they choose within broad parameters, acquire wealth beyond measure, and shape the fate of worlds and civilizations. They are beholden to no one save the Emperor himself, and he has been silent for 10,000 years. Yet this freedom comes at the price of enormous responsibility and constant danger. They must prove worthy of the trust placed in them by their warrant, or risk losing everything in disgrace or death. This is the blessing and curse of the rogue trader, ultimate power and ultimate peril, wrapped together in a life that is never dull and never safe. The daily existence of the imperial nobility, whether they are spire dwellers, planetary officials, or members of ancient houses, is shaped by access to luxuries and technologies that seem like miracles to the common people of the Imperium. Perhaps none of these is more significant than rejuvenat treatments, the various anti-aging processes that allow the wealthy to extend their lives far beyond the natural human lifespan. These treatments represent the pinnacle of imperial biomedical science, combining gene therapy, stem cell treatments, augmetic surgery, and sometimes even more exotic techniques involving archaeotech or carefully applied xenos biotechnology. For the extremely wealthy, rejuvenat treatments can extend a healthy lifespan to 200 years or more, with being just shy of 2 centuries considered early middle age. The treatments work primarily through a regimen of specialized drugs, often called juvenat drugs, that must be taken regularly throughout life. These drugs are supplemented with periodic surgical procedures to replace failing organs, either with cloned replacements grown from the patient's own cells or with carefully crafted augmetics that enhance rather than merely replace biological function. The skin is kept smooth and youthful through specialized treatments. Bones are reinforced to prevent the brittleness that comes with age, and the neural pathways of the brain are maintained to prevent cognitive decline. The result is that noble individuals can maintain what appears to be middle-aged vigor for centuries. They typically look to be in their 40s or 50s, even when they are 200 or more years old, creating the ageless appearance that is the hallmark of high imperial society. It becomes difficult to distinguish between someone who is actually 40 and someone who is 400, at least by appearance alone. The eyes might hold the weight of centuries of experience, but the body remains strong and capable. However, even the finest rejuvenat treatments have their limits. The wealthiest can afford the treatments that truly halt aging, maintaining perfect appearance and full physical capability. Those with less access to the most advanced treatments might show subtle signs of age despite the juvenat drugs. Grey hair that refuses to be banished, slight drooping in the cheeks, the accumulated scars of a long life that even the best medical care cannot fully erase. And for all but the most privileged few, there comes a point where the treatments begin to fail, where the body's cellular structure simply cannot be maintained any longer, and the rapid aging that has been held at bay for decades or centuries finally catches up in a matter of months or years. The cost of rejuvenate treatments places them far beyond the reach of common citizens. Even the cheapest, least effective treatments are the domain of the rather wealthy, available only to successful merchants, military officers, or mid-level administratum officials who have accumulated substantial savings. The most effective treatments, those used by high nobility, planetary governors, and rogue traders, can only be procured by the most fabulously wealthy. A lifetime supply of top-tier juvenat drugs might cost more than a small starship, and that's before accounting for the medical specialists needed to administer them properly. These specialists, called rejuvenat adepts, are themselves a privileged class within imperial society. Closely based on the medical orders of the Adepta Sororitas, these adepts focus not merely on healing, but on longevity and the illusion of immortality. They are trained in complex programs of treatment involving not just juvenat drugs, but also steroidal elixirs antithanators, and various other substances whose exact compositions are often carefully guarded secrets. The best rejuvenat adepts can command enormous fees for their services, and noble houses often maintain them as permanent household staff, ensuring that the family has access to life extension without having to rely on outsiders who might be bribed by enemies. The implications of extended lifespan shape noble society in profound ways. When an individual can reasonably expect to live for 2 centuries, their perspective on time and planning changes dramatically. Political schemes might play out over decades instead of years. Grudges can be nursed for lifetimes, with revenge being planned and executed a century after the initial slight. Marriage alliances become more complex when the partners might be bound together for 150 years. And the question of succession becomes fraught with tension, as heirs might wait for a century or more for their chance to inherit, watching their parents rule with no end in sight. Beyond rejuvenat treatments, the daily life of the rich is filled with luxuries that common citizens cannot imagine. Their clothing is not the mass-produced synthweave or recycled materials worn by the masses, but garments crafted from the finest materials available across the Imperium. Real silk, woven by specialized servitors or carefully maintained agricultural concerns. Leather from animals, raised specifically for their hide, sometimes from beasts found only on a single world. Furs from creatures that might be rare or even extinct. Precious metals and gems worked into the fabric itself, sometimes incorporating materials that are literally irreplaceable, such as threads woven from hair of saints or buttons carved from the teeth of ancient predators from death worlds. Each garment is often custom made by master tailors who have spent decades perfecting their craft. The process of creating a single formal outfit might take months, with multiple fittings and adjustments to ensure perfect fit and appearance. The result is clothing that is not just beautiful, but that serves as a statement of status, house affiliation, and personal wealth. Some noble wardrobes contain hundreds or even thousands of such garments, each worn perhaps only once before being passed to lesser family members or sold to collectors who specialize in historical fashion. The food consumed by the wealthy bears no resemblance to the rations that sustain the common population, where the masses subsist on corpse starch, algae paste, and recycled proteins. The nobility dine on fresh meat from animals raised in carefully maintained herds, produce grown in soil rather than vats, and delicacies that might be imported from halfway across the galaxy. A single meal might include ingredients from a dozen different worlds, fruits from agri-worlds whose entire purpose is to supply the plates of the wealthy, meat from beasts raised on paradise worlds, spices that are literally more valuable than gold by weight, wines that have been aged for centuries in sealed cellars. The preparation of such meals is itself an art form, with master cuisiniers commanding enormous respect and substantial compensation for their skills. A planetary governor or great noble house might maintain a staff of dozens of such specialists, each with their own area of expertise. There are those who specialize in meats, others in pastries and sweets, some who focus on the presentation and artistic arrangement of food, and still others who are masters of particular regional or traditional cuisines. The kitchens in noble estates are vast facilities, larger than many manufactorums, equipped with every tool and technology that might be needed to prepare feasts for thousands. Entertainment for the wealthy takes forms both traditional and exotic. There are gladiatorial games where slaves or condemned criminals fight for the amusement of noble spectators, though these are typically found only on particularly regressive or brutal worlds. More commonly, there are theatre performances where the finest actors and performers present everything from classical imperial plays to newly commissioned works. Concerts featuring musicians who might have trained their entire lives to master rare or ancient instruments, sometimes performing compositions that date back to old Earth itself. Art exhibitions where collectors display their acquisitions, including works that might be thousands of years old, representing artistic traditions that have been lost everywhere else in the Imperium. Social gatherings are themselves a form of entertainment, with elaborate balls and parties that can last for days. These events are carefully choreographed affairs where every detail has significance. The guest list itself is a political statement, with invitations or their absence sending messages about alliances and enmities. The order in which guests arrive and where they are seated reflects their social standing and the host's estimation of their importance. The dances performed follow precise patterns that have been maintained for centuries, with any deviation from the established forms being either a deliberate innovation or a grave insult, depending on context. Some nobles pursue more personal forms of entertainment and indulgence. They might maintain extensive libraries filled with rare books and data crystals, spending years studying topics that interest them. They might collect exotic weapons or armor, not for use but for display and the satisfaction of ownership. They might sponsor exploratory expeditions, funding the search for lost archaeotech or ancient ruins in exchange for first choice of any discoveries. And some, inevitably, turn to darker pleasures. Elaborate hunts in the underhive, where they prey on gangers and mutants, extreme sensory experiences facilitated by exotic drugs or neural implants, or even dalliances with xenos or forbidden technologies that risk the notice of the Inquisition. The servants who make all of this possible form their own complex society within noble households. At the bottom are the menials, those who perform the most basic tasks of cleaning, maintenance, and basic labor. These individuals might number in the thousands in a large estate, living in cramped servants' quarters, working long hours for minimal compensation, their lives barely better than those of underhive workers, but considered privileged positions because they at least have stable employment and regular meals. Above the menials are the specialized servants, the skilled cooks and cleaners, the personal attendants who help nobles with bathing and dressing, the maintenance technicians who keep the estate's systems functioning, the security guards who patrol the perimeter. These individuals often serve the same household for their entire lives, their positions sometimes hereditary, passing from parent to child across generations. They develop deep knowledge of the house's customs and preferences, becoming invaluable through their expertise and familiarity. At the top of the servant hierarchy are the major domo and seneschals, those who actually manage the household's operations. These individuals wield significant power, managing budgets that might equal those of small planetary governments, making hiring and firing decisions that affect thousands of lives, and sometimes even advising the nobles themselves on matters of household politics and social convention. A good major domo is worth their weight in precious metals, and noble houses guard such individuals jealously, binding them with generous compensation, honored positions, and sometimes even partial adoption into the family itself. This is the daily reality of life for the rich in the Imperium. It is an existence of extreme luxury and privilege, where every need is anticipated and met, where the finest things the galaxy has to offer are available at a whim, where lifespans extend far beyond those of common citizens. Yet it is also a life of constant vigilance and political maneuvering, where rivals lurk behind. Every smile, where a single misstep can mean death or disgrace, and where the weight of expectation and responsibility presses down with crushing force. The rich of the Imperium live like gods compared to the common people, but they are gods who must fight every day to maintain their position in a universe that shows no mercy to the weak or unwary. The political landscape of Imperial nobility resembles nothing so much as a vast, interconnected game being played on multiple boards simultaneously, where the pieces are lives, the stakes are power and survival, and the rules shift constantly according to circumstances and the relative strength of the players. At the heart of this game lies the fundamental reality that within most noble families, there are far more potential heirs than there are positions of true power. Even among the most powerful houses, dozens or hundreds of individuals might have legitimate claims to inheritance, creating an environment where sibling rivalries can escalate into bloody succession wars that span decades. The structure of noble inheritance varies across the Imperium according to local custom and tradition, but certain patterns appear repeatedly. In most cases, primogeniture remains the standard, with the eldest child inheriting titles, lands, and the bulk of the family wealth. This creates an immediate division within families between those who stand in line to inherit real power and those who are merely related to power, enjoying its privileges without ever truly wielding it themselves. The younger children of great houses find themselves in an awkward position. They have been raised with all the education and expectations of the nobility. They have access to wealth and resources beyond the dreams of common citizens. Yet they have little prospect of ever ruling unless their older siblings die or are removed from succession. This situation breeds resentment and ambition in equal measure. Some younger heirs accept their position and make the best of it, seeking glory in military service, taking positions in imperial organizations, or marrying into other houses where they might find opportunity to distinguish themselves. Others refuse to accept their circumstances and begin plotting ways to advance their position. Assassination is the most direct method, and the mysterious deaths of heirs apparent are common enough in noble society that elaborate precautions have become standard. Food tasters who risk death with every meal they sample, bodyguards whose loyalty is ensured through genetic conditioning or neural programming, hidden passages and secure chambers where nobles can retreat when threatened. All these are necessary protections against family members who might prefer a shortened line of succession. The political maneuvering within families extends beyond simple assassination. There are schemes to have rivals declared unfit to inherit through manufactured evidence of incompetence or heresy. There are manipulations of family law and tradition, arguments over the interpretation of ancient house charters, battles fought in legal forums that can be as deadly as any physical combat. Some heirs are convinced or coerced into renouncing their claims, accepting lesser positions, or being married off to other houses in exchange for giving up their place in succession. Others are simply eliminated from consideration through social disgrace, their reputations destroyed through carefully orchestrated scandals that make them unsuitable for positions of power. Between different noble houses, the political game becomes even more complex. Houses form alliances through marriage, trading their children like valuable commodities to cement relationships or gain advantage. These marriages are rarely about love or even personal compatibility. They are strategic decisions made to join wealth, to combine military forces, to gain access to trade routes or political connections, or to settle old debts and end feuds that might have lasted generations. The actual individuals being married often have little say in the matter, though those with particularly strong personalities or valuable skills might be able to negotiate terms that give them some autonomy within the arrangement. A typical noble marriage contract is an elaborate document that might run to hundreds of pages, specifying everything from the financial arrangements to the disposition of any children born from the union. There are clauses covering what happens if the marriage fails, how assets will be divided, whether either party can maintain relationships with previous partners, and sometimes even detailed schedules for the conception of heirs. The negotiation of these contracts can take months or even years, with both houses bringing their best legal minds to ensure that their interests are protected and their family gains maximum advantage from the arrangement. The most complex political situations arise when marriages involve individuals of vastly different status. Traditionally, the lower status partner joins the higher status partner's family, giving up their original family name and place in succession in exchange for elevated status through the marriage. However, some marriages reverse this pattern, with a higher-ranking individual accepting a lower position to join a wealthier but less prestigious house. These arrangements typically involve substantial wedding gifts that are essentially purchases of noble status, with wealthy merchant families or rogue trader dynasties offering enormous sums to acquire the social legitimacy that comes from having high-ranking nobles marry into their lines. Beyond marriages, houses form alliances through various other mechanisms. They might agree to support each other in disputes with rival houses, providing military aid, political backing, or financial assistance when needed. They might enter into trade agreements that benefit both parties while excluding competitors. They might coordinate their activities in imperial organizations, using their combined influence to advance shared interests. These alliances are rarely permanent, shifting as circumstances change and new opportunities or threats emerge. A house that was an ally yesterday might become a rival tomorrow if the political winds shift, and old enmities can be set aside when mutual advantage demands cooperation. The role of the ecclesiarchy in noble politics cannot be overlooked. The imperial church is an enormous power in its own right, and its relationship with the nobility varies greatly across different worlds. On some planets, like Tefane, the links between church and nobility are almost indistinguishable, with siblings sharing power between religious and secular authorities. On others, like Malfi, strict separation is maintained, with the roles of noble and priest kept carefully distinct. Regardless of the specific arrangements, most noble houses maintain close relationships with the ecclesiarchy, both because genuine faith is common among the upper classes and because the church's support can legitimize a house's rule in the eyes of the common people. Many noble houses have traditions of dedicating younger children to the church, a practice that serves multiple purposes. It provides these children with positions of honor and responsibility when they cannot inherit secular power. It creates direct connections between the house and the ecclesiarchy, with family members in positions to advance the house's interests within the church hierarchy. And it removes potential rival heirs from the line of succession while still allowing them to bring honor to the family through religious service. The most successful of these religious scions can rise to become confessors, cardinals, or even higher positions within the church, wielding spiritual authority that can rival or exceed the temporal power of their secular relatives. The constant threat of the Inquisition shapes noble political calculations in profound ways. An inquisitor investigating a noble house can bring down the mighty as easily as the weak, and the weapons used are often political as much as military. An inquisitor might reveal carefully hidden scandals, expose corrupt practices, or present evidence of heresy that destroys a house's reputation even if it never results in formal charges. Some houses attempt to cultivate relationships with the Inquisition, offering their younger members for recruitment as acolytes or agents, hoping that this will provide some protection against investigation. Others maintain careful distance, knowing that too much contact with the Inquisition is itself suspicious. One of the most dangerous aspects of noble politics is the phenomenon of boredom-driven heresy. When individuals have access to literally everything the Imperium can provide, when they have experienced every luxury and indulgence available to them, some begin to seek new experiences and sensations beyond the boundaries of what is permitted or safe. They might dabble in Zeno's philosophy, collecting forbidden texts that offer perspectives on reality that differ from imperial orthodoxy. They might experiment with chaos-tainted artifacts, believing themselves strong enough to resist corruption while enjoying the power such items provide. They might sponsor cults or engage in forbidden rituals, seeking the thrill of transgression or the promise of even greater power. The Inquisition watches constantly for such deviations, knowing that corrupt nobles are among the most dangerous heretics precisely because of the resources and influence they command. A planetary governor who falls to chaos can bring an entire world with them, commanding armies to serve dark gods, perverting industrial output to produce materials for blasphemous rituals, and opening the population to corruption. A rogue trader who succumbs to temptation might spread heresy across multiple systems before being stopped. This is why even the highest-ranking nobles are not above investigation, and why the fall of a great house to proven heresy typically results in the execution of every member and the erasure of the house's name from all records. For those nobles who manage to navigate this treacherous landscape successfully, who survive the assassination attempts and political schemes, who maintain their position through skill and luck and ruthlessness, the rewards are substantial. They can shape policy that affects billions, accumulate wealth that beggars the imagination, and establish dynasties that will endure for centuries after their deaths. But they can never rest, never drop their guard, because there are always rivals waiting for an opportunity, always threats emerging from unexpected directions, always the knowledge that everything they have could be lost in an instant if they make a single fatal mistake. This is the political reality of life among the imperial nobility. It is a game without end, where the prize is power and the penalty for losing is often death. Those who play it successfully become legends, their names carved into the history of the Imperium. Those who fail are forgotten, their houses broken, their wealth seized, their names stricken from records as if they never existed. The game goes on, generation after generation, and the stakes never decrease. The military power commanded by the imperial nobility is not merely decorative or symbolic. It represents one of the fundamental pillars upon which their authority rests, the ultimate guarantor of their position in the face of threats, both external and internal. While planetary governors command official forces like the planetary defense forces, and while the Astra Militarum's regiments are technically the property of the Imperium rather than any individual, the practical reality is that noble houses maintain extensive private military forces that answer directly to the family and serve its interests above all others. The house guards that protect noble estates are not the poorly trained thugs that might serve as muscle for underhive gang leaders. These are professional soldiers, often equipped with weapons and armor that rival or exceed what is available to standard Imperial Guard regiments. They are recruited from the most promising candidates available, whether drawn from the house's own holdings, purchased from specialized military academies, or even recruited from retired Imperial Guard veterans who seek stable employment in their later years. Their training is rigorous and ongoing, with many noble houses maintaining their own training facilities and combat instructors who are themselves veterans of countless campaigns. The equipment issued to elite house guards can be spectacular in both quality and cost. While a basic guardsman might be issued a laser gun and flak armor, the elite troops protecting a noble's person often carry hotshot las weapons with superior penetration and range, or even more exotic weapons like plasma guns or melter weapons. Their armor might be carapace plate, or even light power armor, providing protection that can withstand attacks that would shred lesser defenders. Some houses maintain small numbers of troops in full power armor, creating squads of elite warriors whose capabilities approach those of Space Marines, at least in terms of equipment, if not genetic enhancement. Beyond their primary estates, many noble houses maintain military forces across their holdings. A great house that controls multiple manufactorums, agricultural estates, or mining concerns typically stations troops at each location to ensure security and suppress any worker uprisings before they can spread. These forces might number in the tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands when all holdings are counted together, representing a military capability that can rival the official PDF of some smaller worlds. The most powerful houses, particularly those of planetary governors, maintain what amounts to private armies so large that they become military forces in their own right. These armies are often organized along traditional military lines, with full command structures, specialized units for different roles, support services, and sometimes even their own naval elements for transportation and void combat. A planetary governor's household troops might include not just infantry, but also armored companies with tanks and other vehicles, artillery batteries, air cavalry units with aircraft and gunships, and even small craft capable of operations in space. Some noble houses have military traditions that stretch back for millennia. The Ventrilian nobles, for example, come from a wealthy jewel world where passing the subterranean coming-of-age ritual, known as the Trial of the Lava Lakes, grants access to wealth sufficient to buy one's way out of military service multiple times over. Yet Ventrilia maintains a proud military culture with a dueling tradition that predates the Imperium itself, and few of its nobles would risk the dishonor of avoiding their military commissions. Instead, They use their wealth to ensure favorable deployments to war zones rich in adventure and glory, rather than being fed to the meat grinder of the Imperium's most desperate conflicts. When Ventrilian nobles go to war, they do so in style that would seem ostentatious to most Imperial Guard regiments. They are armed, not just with standard issue lasguns, but also with ancestral dueling weapons, quick blades, heavy Zweihanders, and other arms that have been passed down through family lines for generations. Their uniforms are of greater value than the dress clothing of officers from other worlds, incorporating precious materials and skilled craftsmanship that marks them as nobility even on the battlefield. The Adeptus Mechanicus, which purchases rare gemstones from Ventrilia for manufacturing and research, ensures that the nobles' regiments are abundantly equipped with super-heavy tanks and other advanced vehicles, creating armored formations that are superior to most standard guard units. The relationship between noble houses and Space Marine chapters varies greatly depending on circumstances and personalities, but when it exists at all, it represents an enormous advantage for the house involved. Space Marines ultimately answer only to their chapter master and the Emperor, and they cannot be commanded by any planetary governor or noble house. However, some chapters maintain traditional relationships with specific noble lines, particularly when those nobles control worlds that serve as recruiting grounds for the chapter or provide other valuable support. The most notable example is House Belisarius of the Navies Nobilite, one of the oldest and most respected Navigator houses in the Imperium. This house maintains an ancient and close relationship with the Space Wolves chapter, exclusively providing navigators for the Space Wolves fleet. In return, the Space Wolves gift the house with a small contingent of Space Wolves Astartes, called the Wolfblade, who serve as the House Celestarch's personal bodyguard and enforcer. These warriors represent perhaps the ultimate expression of military protection that any noble house can command. Transhuman warriors whose capabilities far exceed any normal human soldier, bound by oaths of honor to defend the house and its interests. Less formalized, but still valuable, are the relationships some rogue traders maintain with Space Marine chapters. A rogue trader who has rendered valuable service to a chapter, whether through providing transportation, supplying rare materials, or offering intelligence about threats in unexplored space, might earn enough favor that the chapter is willing to honor requests for assistance. This doesn't mean the rogue trader commands Space Marines, but rather that in situations of mutual interest, the chapter might be willing to deploy a strike team or other small force to support the rogue trader's operations. Such arrangements are carefully balanced, with both parties understanding that the Space Marines are doing so as allies or in pursuit of their own objectives, rather than as hired soldiers. The bodyguards who protect individual nobles represent another category of military force entirely. These are not massed troops meant for open warfare, but elite warriors whose entire focus is on keeping their charge alive in the face of assassination attempts, ambushes, and sudden violence. The best bodyguards are recruited from Special Forces veterans, former Tempestus Scions, retired Astartes, who can no longer serve in their chapters, but retain much of their enhanced capabilities, or individuals who have trained their entire lives specifically for this role. These bodyguards often receive extensive augmentation to enhance their capabilities. Neural implants that speed reaction time and improve combat awareness, muscular augmentation that increases strength beyond normal human limits, skeletal reinforcement that allows them to absorb impacts that would shatter ordinary bones, sensory enhancements that let them detect hidden weapons or concealed threats. Some of the most paranoid or valuable nobles are protected by bodyguards who have been so extensively modified that they are barely recognizable as human, transformed into combat cyborgs whose every system is optimized for violence. The loyalty of these bodyguards is ensured through multiple mechanisms. Generous compensation is the foundation, with the best bodyguards commanding salaries that could support entire families in comfort for generations. Beyond money, there are bonds of honor and tradition, particularly in cultures where personal loyalty to one's lord is considered sacred. Some houses use neural conditioning or even gene-locked loyalty programming, creating bodyguards whose very biology prevents them from betraying their charges. These methods are controversial even within imperial society, but they are used nonetheless by those who value certainty over qualms about free will. Despite all this military might, or perhaps because of it, open warfare between noble houses is relatively rare in most regions of the Imperium. This is partly because such conflicts are explicitly forbidden by imperial law and tradition. On worlds like Necromunda, all noble and clan houses have signed the oath nobilis, vowing never to break the planet's pax Imperium with open warfare. Violation of such oaths can result in intervention by the Adeptus Arbites or even the Inquisition, bringing down consequences that no house wishes to face. Instead, military conflicts between houses typically take the form of shadow wars fought through proxies. The gangs in the Underhive become the soldiers of noble interests, fighting for territory and resources at the behest of their distant masters. Assassination squads eliminate key individuals without triggering full-scale war. Mercenary forces that appear independent but are actually funded and directed by noble houses engage in operations that advance factional interests while maintaining plausible deniability. This proxy warfare allows houses to pursue their conflicts while technically maintaining the peace, a fiction that all parties find convenient, even as they work constantly to undermine their rivals. When noble houses do commit their private armies to action, it is often in response to external threats rather than internal rivalries. Orc invasions, chaos incursions, tyrannid splinter fleets, or other Xenos threats that endanger the house's holdings and population require military response that exceeds the capabilities of local security forces. In such situations, the private armies of the nobility prove their worth, deploying alongside or sometimes in advance of official Imperial Guard regiments to protect the house's interests and, by extension, the Imperium itself. This is the military reality of the Imperial nobility. They are not merely administrators or figurehead rulers, but warlords in truth, commanding forces that can shape the outcomes of conflicts across entire planets or systems. Their power rests ultimately on the willingness and ability to use violence in defense of their interests. And those who forget this tend not to remain in power for long. The elaborate social conventions and political maneuvering of noble society exist in part because all parties understand that the alternative to negotiated settlements is bloodshed on a scale that serves no one's interests. But when negotiation fails, when rivals cannot be managed through political means, the nobility has the military capability to enforce its will through force of arms. For all the luxury, power, and privilege that comes with nobility in the Imperium, there exists a dark undercurrent that runs through high society like a slow-acting poison. The very factors that make life at the top so appealing also create conditions that can drive nobles toward corruption, heresy, and ultimately their own destruction. Understanding these dangers is crucial to understanding the full picture of what it means to be rich in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, because for every family that maintains its position and honor across generations, there are others that fall into darkness and take entire populations with them when they finally burn. Perhaps the most insidious threat is simple boredom. When an individual has access to literally everything the Imperium can provide, when they have experienced every pleasure that is legally available to them, when they have attended every type of social event and eaten every exotic delicacy and visited every paradise world, what remains? For those with strong character and genuine purpose, the answer might be to find meaning in their responsibilities, to take pride in effective governance or military success, or the advancement of their house's interests. But for others, especially those who have inherited positions without having to earn them, the endless repetition of privileged existence becomes a kind of torture. These bored nobles begin seeking new experiences, new sensations, new ways to feel something in lives that have become numbingly comfortable. Initially, this might take relatively harmless forms, increasingly elaborate social events, more exotic foods and entertainment, dangerous sports or activities that provide an adrenaline rush. But for some, these ordinary transgressions are not enough. They begin to explore the boundaries of what is permitted, and then to carefully cross those boundaries in ways they believe they can control. The descent often begins with seemingly minor heresies. A noble might acquire Xenos artifacts for their private collection, items that should be destroyed but are too beautiful or interesting to resist. They might read forbidden texts that offer philosophical perspectives beyond the strict orthodoxy of the Imperial creed, curious about ideas that differ from what they have been taught since birth. They might attend underground gatherings where prohibited substances are consumed or where entertainments of questionable legality are provided. Each of these steps seems small, manageable, something they can stop at any time. But the nature of forbidden things is that they create hunger for more. The Xenos artifacts lead to curiosity about the cultures that created them. The forbidden texts raise questions about the nature of reality and power. The underground gatherings introduce the noble to others who have gone even further down similar paths. And always there are whispers, sometimes literal voices heard in dreams or moments of altered consciousness, offering knowledge and power beyond anything the Imperium can provide. This is how chaos corruption typically begins among the nobility. The great enemy does not announce itself with obvious symbols and demands for worship. Instead, it seduces gradually, offering each victim exactly what they most desire: knowledge for the intellectually curious, martial prowess for the warrior, pleasure for the hedonist, power for the ambitious. The noble tells themselves they are merely exploring, learning, experiencing life more fully than the narrow constraints of imperial society permit. They believe themselves strong enough to resist any true corruption, intelligent enough to recognize danger before it becomes overwhelming. By the time they realize their mistake, it is usually too late. The artifacts they collected have begun to influence their thoughts and dreams. The texts they read have implanted ideas that seem to make more sense than imperial orthodoxy. The gatherings they attended have become rituals, and the substances they consumed have become necessities. And the whispers that once seemed like imagination have become clear voices, offering bargains that are increasingly difficult to refuse. The specific form of corruption varies according to which aspect of chaos has claimed the noble's attention. Those drawn to corn become increasingly violent and volatile, finding satisfaction only in bloodshed and combat, eventually turning their own houses into slaughterhouses as they hunt servants and family members for sport. Tzeentch's influence drives nobles into labyrinthine schemes where the plotting itself becomes more important than any actual goal, their minds twisted by constantly multiplying conspiracies until they can no longer distinguish reality from their own paranoid fantasies. Nurgle offers escape from the fear of aging and death that even rejuvenate treatments cannot entirely eliminate, but his gifts turn nobles into plague bearers who spread corruption throughout their holdings. And Slaanesh promises ever greater sensations and pleasures, driving nobles into excesses that begin with merely immoral acts, but eventually cross into the genuinely monstrous. The danger posed by corrupted nobility is immense, precisely because of the resources and authority they command. A planetary governor who falls to chaos can turn an entire world against the Imperium before the danger is recognized and responded to. They can redirect industrial output to produce weapons and materials for chaos forces. They can suppress reports of strange occurrences and prevent loyal Imperial agencies from investigating. They can use their authority to eliminate or exile those who might recognize what is happening. By the time the corruption becomes undeniable, they might have corrupted entire regiments of the PDF, suborned significant portions of the nobility, and prepared defenses that will make reclaiming the world costly in both lives and resources. Even nobles who do not fall to chaos represent dangers when their excess and boredom drive them to acts that harm the innocent. The phenomenon of spire hunts exemplifies this darkness. Young nobles, raised in the heights of the hive spires in comfort and luxury, sometimes decide that they wish to prove themselves as warriors, but have no interest in the actual discipline and danger of military service. Instead, they don hunting suits that are marvels of archaeotech and personal armor technology, powered armor that rivals what Space Marines wear, but designed specifically for moving through the tight confines of hive cities and underhives. These spires descend into the lower levels of the hive, sometimes in groups, but often alone, seeking prey among the gangers, mutants, and desperate citizens who inhabit those dark spaces. What they call hunting is simply murder, the slaughter of human beings who have no chance against the advanced technology and combat capabilities of the spires. The victims' families have no recourse, no way to seek justice or even compensation, because the killers are nobility and untouchable by the laws that govern common citizens. Some spires collect trophies from their kills, displaying them like hunters might display the heads of animals, creating chambers of horrors that would shock even hardened soldiers. The disconnect from reality that develops in nobles who have never experienced hardship or genuine danger can be profound and disturbing. Some literally do not understand that common citizens are fully human, viewing them instead as a sort of barely sentient resource to be exploited. When workers die in dangerous conditions, when starvation claims thousands in the lower hive, when entire families are rendered homeless by industrial accidents or house wars, these nobles feel no more concern than they would for broken tools or spoiled food. The suffering of others becomes an abstraction, something that happens but carries no emotional weight or moral significance. This callousness creates conditions where atrocities become routine. A noble might order the destruction of an entire hab block to clear space for an expansion of their estate, displacing thousands without compensation or alternative housing. They might demand impossibly high productivity from manufactorums, accepting that many workers will die from exhaustion or accidents, because those workers can be easily replaced. They might use condemned criminals for medical experiments or bizarre entertainment, justifying it by noting that these people were going to die anyway, so why not make some use of them first? The legal protections that shield nobility from consequences exacerbate these problems. On most imperial worlds, there exist two systems of justice, one for common citizens, harsh and absolute, and another for nobility, flexible and forgiving. A common citizen who kills a noble can expect immediate execution, often by methods designed to maximize suffering as a warning to others. But a noble who kills a commoner might face no consequences at all, or at most a fine or formal rebuke that carries no real penalty. Even when nobles commit crimes against each other, the consequences are often political rather than legal, settled through house negotiations and compensation rather than actual punishment. This two-tier system of justice creates resentment that occasionally boils over into rebellion. When the masses finally reach the point where they have nothing left to lose, when oppression and suffering become unbearable, they sometimes rise up against their noble rulers. These rebellions are almost always doomed to fail, crushed by house guards and PDF troops with overwhelming force. But they represent a constant underlying threat that wise nobles understand and try to mitigate through careful management of their populations, ensuring that conditions never quite reach the breaking point where mass uprising becomes preferable to continued subjugation. For nobles who recognize the darkness within their own class, who feel genuine concern about the corruption and excess they witness, the options for action are limited. Speaking out against other noble houses risks political retaliation and house warfare. Attempting to reform the system from within often fails because the structures of privilege are maintained by those who benefit from them, and they have no interest in change. Some choose to leave noble life entirely, renouncing their positions and titles to seek purpose elsewhere, perhaps joining the Imperial Guard or taking roles in other imperial organizations where merit matters more than birth. These individuals are both admired and pitied by those they leave behind. Admired for their courage and principles, pitied for throwing away advantages that most would kill to possess. The most dramatic falls from grace occur when noble houses are caught in unambiguous heresy or rebellion. When the Inquisition finally moves against a corrupted house, when Space Marines are deployed to eliminate traitors, when orbital bombardment reduces estates to rubble and radioactive ash, the message is clear. No amount of wealth or ancient lineage can protect those who betray the Imperium. Entire houses are exterminated, every member hunted down and killed, their names stricken from records, their holdings seized and redistributed, their history erased as if they never existed. This is the ultimate penalty for the ultimate crime, and it serves as a stark reminder to all other nobles that their privileges are conditional on loyalty. Yet despite these dangers, or perhaps because of them, life at the heights of imperial society continues generation after generation. For every house that falls to darkness, others rise to take their place. For every noble driven to excess by boredom, others find genuine purpose in their responsibilities. The system persists not because it is good or just, but because it is entrenched, and because those with power work to maintain it. The dark side of wealth in the Imperium is inseparable from the bright side. Two faces of the same coin, luxury and horror, intertwined in ways that define the grim darkness of the far future. Among all the types of nobility in the Imperium, the Navigator houses of the Navy's nobility occupy a unique and peculiar position. These families possess a genetic mutation that is not only tolerated, but essential to the Imperium's survival. The Navigator gene, which allows individuals bearing it to perceive and navigate through the warp, making faster-than-light travel possible. Without navigators, the Imperium's ships would be limited to short, dangerous warp jumps or crawling between stars at sublight speeds that would take centuries. With them, vessels can traverse vast distances in weeks or months, maintaining the connections that bind a million worlds together. This monopoly on warp navigation grants the Navigator houses power and privileges that rival or exceed those of even the wealthiest noble families. They are effectively outside most imperial laws and authority, answerable primarily to their own internal hierarchy and the oversight of the Paternova, the supreme master of the Navi's nobility. Even inquisitors must tread carefully when dealing with Navigator houses, knowing that these families are simply too valuable to the Imperium to be treated as ordinary subjects. Only in cases of overt rebellion or treachery so blatant it cannot be ignored will the Adeptus Terra move against a Navigator house, and even then with great care and reluctance. The wealth of Navigator houses is staggering even by the standards of the Imperial elite. They earn enormous fees for their services, with each successful warp journey generating income that can sustain entire family branches in luxury. The greatest houses maintain fleets of their own, hire out their navigators to the Imperial Navy, rogue traders, merchant combines, and other organizations that require warp travel, and receive additional income from investments and holdings scattered across the Imperium. This wealth accumulates over millennia, with some Navigator houses tracing their lineage back to before the Imperium itself, to the dark age of technology when the Navigator gene first emerged. The living spaces of Navigator houses reflect this accumulated wealth in spectacular fashion. Some families maintain palace ships, entire spacecraft that have been converted into mobile estates housing thousands of family members, servants, and retainers. These vessels drift through the void between star systems, serving as both homes and symbols of the house's independence from any single world. The interiors of these palace ships are decorated with a lavishness that seems impossible in the confined spaces of a void craft. Vast domes gilded with precious metal leaf, hanging gardens where real plants grow in carefully controlled environments, libraries containing ancient texts and data crystals collected across millennia, ballrooms that can accommodate thousands of guests, and dining halls where feasts of exotic delicacies are routine affairs. Other navigator houses maintain primary estates on specific worlds, often ancient structures that have been expanded and modified over thousands of years, until they resemble small cities more than mere dwellings. These estates typically include not just residential areas, but also training facilities where young navigators learn to use their abilities, chapels dedicated to the Imperial cult, but modified to accommodate the navigator house's unique perspective on spirituality, dungeons, and secured areas where the family's darkest secrets are kept, and extensive defensive installations that can withstand everything short of direct orbital bombardment. The daily operations of these estates and palace ships require armies of servants numbering in the tens of thousands. There are the menials who perform basic labor, kept in conditions that are barely better than servitude. There are skilled craftspeople who maintain the estate's systems and create the goods the family requires. There are warriors and guards, the house's private, military forces that number in the thousands, equipped with the finest weapons money can buy and trained to protect the family against any threat. At the top of this hierarchy are the major domos and administrators who actually run the house's operations, managing budgets that would beggar planetary governors and making decisions that affect the lives of everyone in the family's employment. The Navigator mutation that grants these families their power also marks them in ways that grow more pronounced with each generation of interbreeding. All navigators possess a third eye, typically located in the center of the forehead and kept covered when not in use, because gazing into it can drive unprotected viewers mad. But this is far from the only mutation. After millennia of carefully controlled breeding programs designed to strengthen the Navigator gene, the physical forms of Navigator house members often deviate substantially from human baseline. Some develop additional eyes or other sensory organs. Others show elongation or distortion of limbs, enlarged or misshapen skulls to accommodate expanded brain structures, or skin that takes on unusual colors and textures. The most severely mutated are confined to the lowest levels of the estate, hidden away from public view, but kept alive because they still carry the precious Navigator gene that might breed true in their descendants. This genetic instability creates a dark underside to Navigator house life. Entire wings of their estates are given over to those unfortunates whose mutations rendered them unsuitable for any useful purpose, but who cannot be eliminated because they remain family members and sources of the genetic material the house requires to continue producing navigators. These areas are armored and warded, protected by both physical barriers and psychic defenses, because some of the mutations produce individuals who are dangerous, not just in appearance, but in reality, whose very presence can be harmful to unprotected minds. The Navigator houses manage their genetics with obsessive care, maintaining detailed records of bloodlines stretching back through the ages, arranging marriages between houses to introduce new genetic material while avoiding combinations that have proven problematic in the past. These arranged marriages are even more calculating than those common among regular nobility, because the stakes involve not just political advantage or wealth, but the very genetic future of the families involved. The children produced from these unions are examined closely from birth, tested for the Navigator gene and for the quality of their mutation, then sorted into categories that will determine their entire future. Those born with strong Navigator abilities and acceptable physical forms are raised as the elite of the family, trained from childhood to navigate the warp and to eventually take up positions as active navigators. They enjoy all the privileges of the family's wealth, knowing that their abilities make them valuable assets. But they also bear the burden of knowing that each warp journey risks death or madness, that the things they see when gazing into the Imperium can mark their psyche in ways that never heal, that the very gift that grants them privilege is also a curse that isolates them from normal humanity. Those born without the Navigator gene, or with mutations so severe they cannot function as navigators, face an uncertain future. Some are trained for administrative roles within the house, becoming seneschals and major domos who manage operations. Others are married off to regular noble houses, forming political alliances that benefit the Navigator house while allowing the individual to escape the burden of their genetic heritage. The most unfortunate, those whose mutations are severe and whose abilities are non-existent, might be confined to the hidden dungeons, kept alive but out of sight, neither fully family nor truly exiled. The political dynamics within Navigator houses are intensely complex because every marriage, every birth, every death has implications for the genetic health and political position of the entire family. The Novator who leads each house must balance the needs of the present against the requirements of the future, managing relationships with other Navigator houses, with the Paternova who rules over all, and with the various Imperial organizations that depend on the house's services. Succession is often contested, with different branches of the family supporting different candidates, sometimes leading to internal conflicts that can weaken the house for generations. The Paternova, the supreme leader of the Navis nobility, occupies a position unlike any other in the Imperium. This individual is not chosen through normal succession, but rather emerges from among the novators of the great houses through a process that is part biological imperative and part political maneuvering. The Paternova possesses an amplified version of the Navigator gene, their presence actually strengthening the warp sense of other navigators, making all journeys safer and more reliable. This makes the Paternova essential to the smooth functioning of the entire Navigator infrastructure, which in turn makes them essential to the Imperium itself. The Paternova's transformation is accompanied by extreme mutation that goes far beyond what normal navigators experience. Their physical form becomes increasingly inhuman, sometimes barely recognizable as having once been human at all. Yet they are treated with reverence by all Navigator houses, their authority absolute within the Navis nobility, their word literally law for all navigators throughout the Imperium. The chief among the Paternova's servants, the Paternoval envoy, often serves as one of the High Lords of Terror, representing Navigator interests on the Senatorum Imperialis and ensuring that the needs of the Navis nobility are considered in the highest levels of Imperial governance. When a Paternova dies, the Imperium faces a crisis period called an interregnum, during which all warp travel becomes more dangerous as navigators struggle without the amplifying presence they have come to rely upon. The great Navigator houses maneuver intensely during these periods, each hoping that the next Paternova will emerge from their own bloodline, bringing enormous prestige and influence to the successful house. These transitions are times of both opportunity and danger, as old alliances shift and new power structures emerge from the competition. For all their wealth and power, Navigator house members face unique challenges and isolation. The mutation that grants them their abilities also marks them as different, as separate from baseline humanity, in ways that can never be fully bridged. Even with their third eye covered, most navigators exhibit subtle signs of their difference: unusual eye colors, peculiar body proportions, and otherworldly quality to their presence that makes normal humans uncomfortable. This otherness is compounded by the experiences of warp navigation itself, which expose navigators to things that would drive unprotected minds to madness, leaving psychological scars that accumulate over years of service. Many navigators develop strange philosophies and belief systems, modified versions of the Imperial creed, that incorporate their unique understanding of the warp's nature. They might have private shrines where they perform rituals that would seem heretical to orthodox believers, but which the Navigator houses consider essential to maintaining sanity in the face of what they must witness. They form tight-knit communities within their houses, understanding that only other navigators can truly comprehend the reality of their existence. And they maintain a certain arrogance born from knowing that they are essential, that the Imperium cannot function without them, that their mutation makes them both cursed and irreplaceably valuable. This is the reality of life for the Navigator houses. They are among the wealthiest and most powerful families in the Imperium, living in luxury that exceeds even that of most planetary governors, protected by privileges that make them almost untouchable. Yet they pay for these advantages with genetic instability, physical mutation, psychological burdens from warp exposure, and the knowledge that they are forever separate from the rest of humanity. They are necessary monsters, tolerated and honored because they are essential, living proof that even in an empire as vast and powerful as the Imperium of man, survival sometimes requires accepting compromise with things that might otherwise be considered intolerable. The lives of the wealthy in the Warhammer 40,000 universe represent a study in contrasts so extreme they seem almost impossible. These individuals live in conditions of luxury that would seem fantastical to the billions who toil in the darkness of hive, cities, agricultural worlds, and forge worlds scattered across the galaxy. They extend their lifespans through sophisticated medical treatments, dine on foods imported from across the Imperium, wear clothing worth more than starships, and wield power over populations numbering in the billions. Their words can mean life or death for countless souls. Their decisions can shape the fates of entire worlds, and their wealth can purchase almost anything the galaxy has to offer. Yet for all their advantages, the rich of the Imperium live under pressures and threats that would crush lesser individuals. They must navigate political labyrinths where a single misstep can mean death, family members who might be assassins, rivals who watch for any sign of weakness, and organizations like the Inquisition that can bring down even the mightiest if they detect the slightest taint of heresy. They cannot afford to relax their vigilance, cannot fully trust even their closest associates, cannot ever truly rest because the price of power is eternal wariness. The precarious nature of their position is what defines life at the top of Imperial society. A planetary governor might command billions and live in a palace that beggars imagination, but they must ensure their tithe is met, maintain order across their domain, manage relationships with dozens of Imperial organizations, and survive the constant plots of those who would take their place. A rogue trader might possess wealth beyond measure and freedom unimaginable to others, but they must venture into the most dangerous regions of space, make life or death decisions constantly, and manage vast enterprises where a single mistake can cost everything they have built. The noble houses in the spires live above the pollution and squalor of the hive cities, but they wage shadow wars against each other that claim lives as surely as any battlefield. The Navigator houses provide essential services that make them invaluable, but they bear genetic curses and psychological burdens that mark them as forever other. Even the seemingly stable position of established nobility is never truly secure, because in the Imperium there is only war, and war has a way of upending even the most carefully maintained hierarchies. What makes life particularly cruel for the Imperial elite is that many of them understand, at least intellectually, that their privilege is built on the suffering of countless others. They see the reports of worker deaths in manufacturums. They know about the starvation in the underhive. They are aware of the brutal conditions that sustain their comfortable existence. Most simply accept this as the natural order, the way things have always been and must always be. But some few are troubled by this knowledge, haunted by the recognition that their luxury is purchased with the lives and suffering of people just as human as themselves, merely lacking the accident of fortunate birth. These troubled nobles face impossible choices. They can try to improve conditions for those under their rule, but such reforms typically come with costs in efficiency and profit that make them politically vulnerable to rivals who have no such compunctions. They can leave noble life entirely, but this means abandoning whatever good they might have done with their position, and often leaves their holdings in the hands of those who care even less about the well-being of the common people. Or they can simply accept the reality that the Imperium is what it is, that change on the scale needed is impossible, and try to be as ethical as circumstances permit, while recognizing that even their best efforts are drops in an ocean of suffering. For most nobles, such philosophical dilemmas never arise. They are raised from birth to see the social hierarchy as natural and right, to view their privileges as earned through the superiority of their bloodline, and to regard the masses as fundamentally different from themselves. This worldview is reinforced by every aspect of their education and social environment, by the physical separation between the spires where they live and the depths where others struggle, by the elaborate protocols and traditions that maintain distinctions between classes. It takes exceptional circumstances or extraordinary insight for a noble to break free from this conditioning and see the Imperium for what it truly is. In the end, life for the rich in Warhammer 40,000 is neither the pure dystopian horror that the common people experience, nor the utopian fantasy that their external trappings might suggest. It is a complex reality where enormous privileges come with commensurate pressures, where power and paranoia walk hand in hand, where one can have anything except peace of mind or security. They live in gilded cages of their own construction, surrounded by luxury but imprisoned by duty, expectation, and the constant need to defend their position against all threats. This is what it means to be wealthy in the grim darkness of the far future. It means living like a god while feeling like a target, commanding billions while trusting no one, possessing everything while knowing it could all vanish in an instant. It means extending your life for centuries, but spending those centuries in endless political warfare. It means having the finest medical care, the most advanced technology, the most beautiful surroundings, but never being able to drop your guard long enough to truly enjoy any of it. The Imperium's wealthy are both the beneficiaries and the prisoners of a system that has endured for 10,000 years and shows no sign of changing. They perpetuate that system because it benefits them, but they are also trapped by it, unable to escape the endless cycle of intrigue and violence that defines their existence. Some few might dream of a better way, of an Imperium where such extreme disparities do not exist, where power is not synonymous with paranoia, and where privilege does not require constant vigilance. But such dreams are as futile as wishing the warp would cease to be dangerous, or that the great enemy would simply surrender. There is only war in the 41st millennium, and for the rich as much as the poor, that war defines every aspect of existence. The weapons might be different, the battlefield might be a ballroom or negotiating chamber rather than a trench, but the fundamental reality remains. In the Imperium of man, you fight constantly or you fall. The wealthy have more resources for that fight, better protection, and higher walls around their positions. But they are fighting nonetheless, every day, against enemies who are numerous and patient and endlessly creative in their attempts to bring down the mighty. This has been an exploration of what life is like for the rich in Warhammer 40,000. From the spire nobility living above the pollution clouds to the rogue traders traversing the void. From the planetary governors commanding billions to the Navigator houses guiding ships through the warp, we have examined the privileges and the pressures, the luxuries and the paranoia, the power and the peril that define existence at the top of Imperial society. If you found this journey through the gilded halls and shadowed corridors of Imperial nobility enlightening, if it gave you a new perspective on the complex realities of life in the Warhammer universe, then consider showing your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There are countless more stories to tell from the grim darkness of the far future, countless more aspects of life in the Imperium that deserve exploration and examination. Your subscription ensures you won't miss any of these deep dives into the lore that makes this universe so compelling. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of wealth and power in the 41st millennium. Until next time, remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and the rich wage it with different weapons, but no less ferocity than any other citizens of the Imperium. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and may the Emperor protect.